Right, so in our previous lesson, I showed you a single array, all right? What I'm going to do to begin with is I'm going to set up a grid of 9 numbers that are going to be used as a blank grid for playing noughts and crosses, all right? So game board equals what you should notice this time around is what I had here, that would make it a single array. So that would be row 1, 2, 3. Am I making sense there? But what you can do is within, you can add other lists. So that now means that that would be row 1, that would be row 2, that would be row 3. Well, what have I just said wrong? It would be row 0. Remember that, okay? Because the index that we always start our searches on whenever we're using an array is 0. So what I'm going to do is go 1. I'm using strings for the purpose of this. 2, 3. Let's go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, if I was to just go print game board, all it's going to do, if you look at the bottom there, is it's just going to print out the whole thing. The problem is I want to display my board in such a way that it looks like a grid on the screen. So this is where I need to do a little bit of programming here with some loops so I can look at what's in each item. So one way of doing this, of getting each item, if you wanted to look at an individual item, the very long way of doing it could be to do, okay, row 1 equals, let's go game board, let's go position 1. So we'd go 0, 0, plus game board 0, 1, plus game board, helps if my spelling's right there, 0, 2. So can you see there? That's row 1. Sorry, that's the first item in our list, the second, and this one represents the column. Now, if I was to print out row 1, what it would look like is that 1, 2, 3. And I could even use string manipulation, another way to like put pipes in the middle of it. So I could, if I wanted to, there, do this. And then again, have I done that right? Yep. Plus. So I've used concatenation to join the items up. So I've created row 1, row 2, sorry, row 1 with all the columns on it. That's not the right way to do coding, all right? Don't get tripped up with that in the exam. This is why you need to know loops so that you can go through row 1, each column, row 2, each column, because that's how for loops work. So I'm going to show you the correct way of doing it now. So let's print out the individual items so that you can see how a 2D array works. You'll be able to watch this back and learn from it, but get this concept and you've cracked the top marks on an exam, all right? Trust me, there's always a 2D array on an exam, and you will have one in your year 10 one, all right? So you need to understand how this works. So if I was to go for I in game board, all right, and then go for, let's go for I in game board and for J in I could then print out, let's have a look at, I could then print out J, which is the item it's currently on, all right? Now, some of you, that might confuse. I'll explain in a minute. So if I was to run that, can you see what it's done is created a variable, okay, for each item. Does that make sense? Yeah? So by doing it this way, if we're going for I in game board, it creates I is basically going to be each item in the list. But then what you can do then is do another loop to go through the next list. Yeah? Am I making sense? Yeah? So that now makes the value of j each individual item of the next list, which is why I was able to print that out. All right? There's another way to do it. All right? So let me hashtag this out. Okay. Let me move it down and type the new one up here. You could do for I in range 3. This might be the easier way for some people. For j in range 3. Because now, watch what you can do. You could do print game board I j. Can you see the difference in the code? Except this one probably helps you visualize which number you're on better. Okay, so there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just this way helps you kind of visualize which number you're on, probably. So if I run that now, can you see it's giving me exactly the same answer? So this is why there are more than 2 ways to code. There's probably like thousands of ways you could do this. You could have probably even used a loop on the previous way I'd just done it. All right. Now, is that displaying my board in a way that I want it to look?
No.
Nope. All right. So I'm going to show you using this method first, okay, how you could do that. So I'm going to put layout equals 1 there. All right. Then the other thing that I'm going to do is do layout equals layout plus game board I j. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this line. Let's go print layout. And that needs to be inside that loop. So let's watch what it does. What's wrong with it? Yes?
I need to add the line to each.
Yeah. So what I should have done there is put another one. This is next to the Z symbol, this symbol. So if I run it now, watch. I've got my grid. 1, 2, 3. Let me break down what I've done there so you can watch it back and understand it. I represents the... In fact, I'm going to change my code up for you. Does that help you understand that a little bit better? Yeah, so for row in range, so it goes to the first row, and for column in range. But what I've done there is I've created a string called layout, all right? So it's just got the line down. But then when I get to each item in my list, I am adding it to the end of the layout. Yeah, so that is I plus the number plus the I again, the line down, yeah? The reason why that starts again on the next list is because I've finished, whenever I finish that loop, it's continuing adding. Look, layout is layout, so it's you're adding to its own variable. So if that was name, all right, and I added another name to it, it's going to be Ray plus the next name, plus the next name, plus the next name. You can use the existing variable to add on to the end of it, and that's what I've done there. Using a plus symbol, I've concatenated. Now, when I run that, can you see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you want to see how to do it over here as well? I'll do it to this method. So if I unhashtag this out, this time we're going to call this layout 2. Layout 2 equals that there. So I've put that one there, and layout, instead of the print here, I'm going to put layout 2 equals layout 2 plus j plus, and then I'm going to jump out my loop and print layout 2. All right, I'm just going to show you here, print new line so you can see that it's split. You watch, I'll have an error here. There you go. So exactly the same way of joining the grid, but I'm concatenating and joining things on the end. Am I finished? No. I want to get you, all right, to add and change values, okay? So we're going to refer to game board now. Watch what we're going to do, all right? So we're going to go game row equals int input. So we're using casting here. Please tell me the position you would like to place your counter in. And I'm going to put row. Game column equals int input. Please tell me the position that you would like to place your counter in, and we're going for the column. So we're going for row and column. I've added some extra brackets in there somehow. 1, 2. There's a third one. There we go. Fix that. Counter equals input. Which counter would you like to place? And then what we're going to do is game board, game row, game column equals counter. Now what I'm going to do is move this down here. The code is it does exactly the same thing. What it's going to ask me to do now is pick the position. So what happens is it shows me the board. All right. Now, which position would I like to put it in? I'm going to go 0, 1. In fact, sorry, I'm going to go row 1 and position 1. And I'm going to place the X there. And there you go. Because what I did here is I changed by referring to the coordinates in that 2D array. So by referring to the first number, which is your row, and the second number, which is the column, I was able to replace it with what I typed in counter. I could run that again and put 1, 1, and put an @ symbol in there, and it replaces it with an @ okay? What I would like you to do is have a go at setting up the grid to begin with. Now, there's one more skill I want to demonstrate. We're going to do more of this in the future. I can use subroutines, all right? And what a subroutine does is it saves you from having to do the same thing over and over again. So watch, this up here is going to become a new method. Define function, and we're going to call it show game board. All right. And what it's going to do is I'm going to pass the game board in. All right. So, and what that should do is print out the layout. I mean, what it's done there. Sorry. I need to watch my indent. All right. So what I can do now is I can go down here, show game board, pass in the parameter, and I'm going to make sure that the game board is passed in. Let's see if it works. 1, 1, X. There you go. That now means I can reuse that over and over again. So I'm just passing that in so that I can display the board every time I want to use it. So it saves me from having to paste that code over and over and over again. If I wanted to now, I could get rid of this here, all right, and put this same piece of code here. So I'm going to put that there, put that there, and now what I've got is row 1, 2, going to put the X there. Can you see it displayed the board at the beginning, but then it's put the X there? Yes.
What's the point of having game board in brackets?
Here.
Not the actual define function.
here
Yeah.
because that is the parameter I've passed into it. So the way that functions work is you can pass in data so that it can be used within that. If I left that, if I leave that blank, then this variable will not work because it's outside the scope of the function. So you have to, all right, pass it in so it can be used.
It's made after the code. Like it's after iterated.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that make a difference or not?
So
Putting it there.
when you are creating a function, okay, so when you create a function, functions are used, usually you place all your functions at the beginning of your code, all right? That gives you then the opportunity later on down the line to refer to them. The reason why I've passed this in, okay, is so that I can reuse it at any time. I mean, this could be up here if I wanted, all right? All your parameters, all of the things that you declare, as a good coder, you generally put them at the top of this. But I've been quite messy on this because I've been doing this as a tutorial, okay? So don't worry about that. But when we are going to do more about functions as we go along, but I just wanted to demonstrate and ease you in and show you that you can have functionality that you reuse, and that's the point of having them. So I'm going to stop that and upload those two for you.